Sonia Barrett here, once again, and today I'd really like to chat a little bit about the concept of spirituality. I think that it is a very big one because people really, um, some people anyway, really strive to try to do this thing, called being more spiritual. And I think that there's so much pressure that we put on ourselves and these false concepts that we have about what that means and aiming to live this so-called maybe perfect life or being these perfect people or these good people or whatever religious programs or programming that's been projected on us. Those beliefs, even if you're not religious, we carry these programs. Somehow they're embedded in pretty much all of us in one way or another. And I think we also use it to qualify and disqualify people. Who's more spiritual than the other person? We evaluate our actions, we judge our own actions as well as everybody else's actions based on whether they're spiritual or not spiritual. And I think it's really important that we step back and really kind of figure out, well, what are we saying exactly? What do we mean by that? And in doing so, we have to remember that what we're dealing with is this essence that puppets this body, but at the same time allows us this individualized feeling. We all are individuals in one sense, even though we're one. There's an individual aspect that has to be expressed and experienced, and that's what we feel as individuals. However, I think we all realize that there is an essence in us, an essence then that goes beyond these bodies. Now we look at that as spirit. Now, if everybody has this, everybody that's walking around, everything that we see has this essence in it, then everything would have to be spiritual. Now, if we are defining people's actions, now that's a whole other thing because we are defining people's actions based on what we see as good or bad, or the decent thing to do or not decent thing to do. And those evaluations sometimes we also lump into whether somebody is spiritual or not. Now, meditating and showing a face of being what we would define as a good person doesn't really mean anything, because most often a lot of those people are really suffocating the truth of who they are. The concept of spirituality that's been sold to us sort of encourages us to uh, sort of cover up a lot of who we are. And, so there's a lot of deception going on in individuals, which leads to all kinds of other issues, including health issues. So I think it's necessary that we recognize that the entire journey is a spiritual experience, good, bad, or indifferent, regardless of what it is that we are doing, whatever our actions are, we are still spirit having this experience. And in the end, for the individual, sure, the outcome or the results then from one's actions will decide then what the rest of the journey is, or the journey in the next moment, what that might be. Now, does it mean then that we disobeyed something? And I think that's another part of it, because we feel that we're disobeying certain laws. But I think we have to really, again, grow up and step back and recognize that many of these laws, even some of what we see in the Bible, are really put together once again for to help human beings navigate through the experience. And when one comes into his or her own in deeper levels of awareness, again, I don't think that we need to worry about these guidelines because our actions change. Now, we might look at that as the person suddenly becomes more spiritual, but I think it's a sense of awareness. It's moving into a sense of awareness of the much grander self, um, who one is, what's possible, or at least opening up yourself to grander possibilities than what we tend to see around us. So I think that we, again, stepping back and really assessing what we viewed life to be, what we've been taught, how we've been living, how much of ourselves do we suffocate, how many things do we do, as they say, in the dark, and nobody knows about it, but you know about it, and you cover it up. But then there's guilt about it. So, covering it up, who are you covering it up from? And at the same time, it doesn't mean that you have to go telling everybody everything that you've done. But I think it's to be able to step back and see the truth of how you're really interpreting things for yourself, because guilt becomes a really big one. And the idea of spirituality, the way it's been packaged for us, does create a tremendous amount, I think, of guilt because of something that we're striving for. And then we have to recognize that somebody constructed these rules and regulations, these laws, for us to operate by. We're told that the laws were set forth, if we go back to the biblical aspect then, and we hear we go back to the story of Moses and the Ten Commandments, and you know uh, what we should and should not do. Honestly, what it just reminds me of is some what should I say? I want to say larger being, but some being who is aware, fully aware of the magnitude then of their power, has sort of basically presented some of these guidelines and structures for human beings over the course of however many thousands or even millions of years that we've forgotten who we are. Somebody or beings have definitely put together some of these guidelines for us. And I know some people are listening to this and will, I don't know, they might be offended because of their um, religious belief. But there's a lot of fantastic stories. And when I use the word fantastic, I mean, you know, obviously fantasy. The whole ride here is fantasy. The whole journey is fantasy. But there are these perceptions then that really help to block us from seeing more, really sort of, pull the wool over our eyes and makes it a bit more challenging to see through the smoke screen. And so this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the smoke screen that's been created based on trying to live up to these concepts of spirituality and what that means. Now, you might say, oh, but yeah, again, we need those laws. God lay down, those laws, and we need to go by them. But the truth of it is, if you look around your world, everything is allowed to happen. Every single thing is allowed to happen. Everybody is allowed to do anything that you can think of, and anything and the things that you cannot even imagine. So there has to be, I mean, it is quite evident to me then that everything is allowed, regardless of how insane it might seem, everything is allowed. What, however, we deal with, once again, is what we would define as the consequences then, what results from our actions. So I think it's really important to really step back and really go, well, but everything is allowed to happen. And then you have people that say, well, how could God allow this to happen? Well, it's allowed, it's all allowed because it's all allowed. What you each have to wake up to, however, is the growth of the individual, the awareness, the consciousness, the expansion that we go into as we come in more into an awareness of who we are. Certain experiences no longer become essential, but until then, all experiences are allowed. Sonia just saying that? No, look around you. Look around you. Everything is happening. It doesn't matter how you perceive it in terms of, praying for peace, or wanting the entire world to change. Um, Everything is going to be allowed at somewhere, somehow. It might not have to happen in your reality. That's something you have to look at. It might not have to happen in your particular slice of experiencing reality, but somewhere someone is going to participate in an experience that you and I might otherwise not want to participate in. So we got to look at that bigger picture. So, and the individual that does the most horrific thing, the only reason why he or she can come here and do it is obviously is that spiritual essence. He or she is still spirit operating in a body, in a form, whatever spin we want to put on it, in terms of, whether they're possessed or not possessed or whatever. Even if that's the case, everything is allowed in the game experience. So the question would be where you are as in your journey, and what your beliefs are, what your perception is, and what are some of these experiences that we allow to walk into our hologram, our reality. And that is going to be based on some core beliefs, some core perceptions. That is how everything sort of basically shows up. So the other part of this is, um, again, this the spiritual aspect. I would say, we're going to say spirit being spiritual, being more spiritual. I would say it's simply about becoming more aware of who you are beyond these bodies, beyond the robotic nature of this human experience, beyond this automated self. And that's what we have to look at, because even when we are attempting to be this spiritual, quote unquote, we're still mainly a lot of times operating on auto. Your robotic self is just simply um, regurgitating or referencing old programs, old beliefs, all of what has been, again, either injected in us or projected to us, somehow, old programs. So the automated self still runs its definition of being spiritual. So, it's my famous words, yes, a trippy game. It is a very trippy experience. And so that is the reason why it becomes necessary for us to take blinders off and to really begin to see life more for what it is, see ourselves, become aware of who we are on the grander scale, take the pressure off of ourselves from trying to live these idealized concepts of life and religious programming, and just allow yourself to walk into who you are. Just embrace who you are in your life right here, right now, in this moment. Everything about who you are, what you've been, what you've lived. Just embrace it all, because all of it is being spiritual. Yes, you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And the human experience entails everything that you've ever experienced. And with that, you let go of the guilt. When you understand, when we all understand that component, we get that, we start letting go of the guilt of what we've been. As you know, in Christianity, it's always about the sinner. Well, then everybody is a sinner then. It's always about the sinner, and excuse me, finding your way to Lord, or giving your heart to the Lord. Um, that's a whole other story. We won't even get into that one. But the fact is, you have to find your way, um, who you are, embrace who you are. Don't let anybody make you feel less than because of the life you've lived, the experiences you've had. They're all valid. Every single one of those experiences, again, is gifting us to um, greater heights. Now, you have some choices. You can continue to experience the challenging experiences. You can continue to wrap yourself in victimization. You can continue to wrap yourself in guilt and blame, or you can recognize that on this journey, these have been my experiences. You may also examine some of the things that may have led to the experiences that you've had. Also, the family that you come into, for reasons that obviously, anyway, or sometimes are beyond this life, reasons why you come into the family that you come into, and the way life was, the way things unfolded, maybe in your childhood. But this moment. This is now. What can you do now? What do you choose to do with life now? Not spend your time going, God, I didn't know. It's like, how did I, why did I even do that? And just chastising your experiences. Don't chastise them. They were what they were. That's it. They were what they were. And I've done some stuff in my life too. And, you look back and you go, wow, okay, you made it through. What do I do with that experience? Well, I use it as a stepping stone. I know that obviously I had the experience for some reason. And people say, well, it should have never happened. If it should have never happened, it wouldn't have happened. So there's a reason why every single thing happens. So they say, yeah, but it should have never come to that. Well, obviously it had to come to that. You know, that's my take on all of it. My take on all of this, it's just it's different. It's not stuffy. It doesn't give you all of this over processed packaged positive thinking hype. I just think who you are right now is who you are, and if we can just embrace that, and if it brings you discomfort, then we still embrace it and see how we can move forward into a frequency, then an experience that's going to give a different kind of frequency. That's simply it. And I know a lot of the new age stuff, they just want to talk about all the, all the fluffy things, all of the being positive, and it doesn't, for a lot of people, it all it does is just help them to sweep all of the things about their lives, all the things bothering them, all the things that are deep down pain. It just sweeps it under the rug, and they never really deal with it. And then we hear that this person is sick, has a severe illness, and then we say, but gosh, but that person was so spiritual, or they ate so well. you gotta just allow yourself to just be. I cannot express that more. Whatever it is you are, just be that. And sometimes I think people meet me and you expect me to be this whole other thing. And basically, this is generally me. Me talking to you, me when you hear me on an interview, me at any given time. That's just it. It's just way too much work trying to be something else. Just way too much work and aiming for these concept, this package concept of what spirituality is. I think, if anything, curiosity should be your driving force, because when you're curious about who you are and about life and what's possible, it will really propel you into digging deeper. And the more we understand is the freer we become, the more we really begin to free ourselves. And life won't seem as challenging because you're not trying to meet all the status quo. There's just too much to meet, too many guidelines, too many programs that we're trying to live up to and to meet and to qualify in other people's eyes, and even qualify ourselves. What you are is what you are, and embrace it. Guess what? All your muscles get to relax, your mind, everything about you get to relax. And if you're worried about, people finding out things about you, guess what? If people find out certain things about me or you, or whatever, who cares? Seriously, in the end, who cares? What does it matter whether people find out who you are or not? When you unmask, what does it matter? Who are they? They've got their own masks. They're busy also trying to make sure people don't find out all of what they are or who they are. So my motto is just let go, who cares, and just to be yeah, I don't know, it might be a little bit of a different approach, but I tell you, it's worked for me. It's working for me over the years, and I don't have to be any specific thing. Like when people meet me, I don't have to put on my spiritual hat. I don't have to do that. I can just be me wherever I am. If I'm at a concert, if I'm talking to a crackhead, if I'm talking to somebody that thinks that they're super over the top spiritual and they've studied metaphysics for, the last 30 years, I'm always like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Who cares what you studied or how many degrees you have or don't have? Who cares? In the end, we are all trying to figure out, or trying to remember who we are, how vast we are, and just do our best with the journey. And most of all, create, live. What are your dreams? What are some of the things you want to do? Focus on that, and focus on, all these people that did you wrong and all this other stuff. It's just more of the game that you'll be playing, just more of the game. So if that's what you want to do, then that's fine. But if you want to be freer, just just let go. All right, so that's my chat today. Let's see what kind of responses I'll get from this, because people have their structure, and religious, you know, what should I say, religious organizations that they belong to. And of course, if you do, then there are rules, there are guidelines typically that you have to go by. And I just kind of throw it all out because I'm telling you, what I've come to realize is it's just who cares? It's you get to the who cares part, and guess what? You don't have to worry about doing anything to anybody because it doesn't matter anymore. You're not trying to protect yourself. You're not trying to save your ego. You're not what do they call it? Self-preservation. But the survival program. You're not running the survival program that's causing you to do strange and crazy things to protect and your mask or protect who you are. It just doesn't matter. So just let go. Let go. Live. You're spiritual. You're always going to be. It's just the way it is. You are a greater essence than these physical bodies. These physical bodies are really just part of that spiritual essence anyway. All right. Well, take care and visit spiritinformed.com. And until the next moment, have another amazing next moment. See you then.